Form 2 lines on the double.
Cha.
The Battle of Intombe, or Intombe Drift, was fought on the 12th of March 1879 between Zulu troops loyal to Mbeleni Mswati and British soldiers and African civilian conductors. The bit of a background to it, there was a convoy which was on its way to Luneberg, and the roads were bogged down with heavy rain, and when they got to the Intombe Drift, some of the wagons were stuck on one side of the north bank, and some of the men protecting the convoy were parked on the south bank, the Luneberg side. Now, the Zulu leader, Mbeleni Mswati, watching down from the slopes of the mountain, could see how much the British force was struggling, and he decided to take action. The convoy consisted of 18 wagons carrying 90,000 rounds of Martini Henry ammunition, millies, tin food, biscuits, a rocket battery, and other weapons for the 80th Regiment. Now, the commanding officer, Captain Anderson, had been given an order to reach Luneberg at any cost that night, and he took that literally, and he rode off towards Luneberg, ostensibly to get reinforcements. When Anderson reached Luneberg, Major Tucker was aghast, and he sent Captain Moriarty and 106 men to bring in the convoy. Now, when Captain Moriarty and the men reached back to the drift, the river had risen again, and they were trying to establish some sort of pontoon to bring the wagons on the far side of the drift across to safety. So the night of the battle, on the night of the 11th of March 1879, 2 sentries were stationed 20 yards from the laager, but 50 yards rise in front of them limited their line of sight. At 3:30 a.m. on the 12th of March, a shot was heard close to the camp. The men returned to their beds after Captain Moriarty decided it was of no consequence. An hour and a half later, a sentry on the far bank saw through a clearing in the mist a huge mass of Zulus advancing silently on the camp. Quote, he at once fired his rifle and gave the alarm. The sentries on the other side did the same. Of course, the men were up in a moment, some men sleeping under the wagons and some in the tents. But before the men were in their positions, the Zulus had fired their volley, thrown down their guns, and were around the wagons and on top of them, and even inside with the cattle, almost instantly. So quickly did they come, there was really no defence on the part of our men. It was simply each man fighting for his life, and in a few minutes all was over, our men being simply slaughtered. Moriarty charged out of his tent with his revolver at the ready and killed 3 Zulus before being shot from the front and stabbed with an assegai from behind, and was said to have shouted, "Fire away, boys! Death or glory! I'm done!" as he fell. Few of his comrades managed to put up any resistance, and many were cut down. Survivors fled into the river, still in spate, flowing at 7 kilometres an hour, hoping to be washed to the far bank. The troops on the far bank provided as much covering fire as possible. Upon what survivors they could see reaching the Luneberg side of the river, Lieutenant Henry Hollingworth Harwood, Moriarty's second-in-command, gave the order to withdraw as several hundred Zulus were crossing the river. No sooner had he done this, he grabbed his first horse he spotted and fled, abandoning his men. These survivors were left under the command of Sergeant Anthony Booth. For 3 miles, the Zulus pursued the group of around 40 survivors. Whenever they drew closer, several of the bolder troops, along with Booth, stopped to deliver a volley, which dispersed their pursuers. 4 men who split from the group to take a shortcut to Luneberg were overtaken and killed. The others made it to Raby's farm, about 2 miles from Luneberg, where the Zulus broke off their pursuit. Booth was later awarded the Victoria Cross. The wagons at the laager were looted and all the ammunition and supplies were carried off by the Zulus or destroyed. Harwood arrived at Luneberg and told Tucker what had happened. Tucker ordered all his mounted troops to accompany him to the camp and 150 infantry to follow. Tucker and his mounted force spotted dense masses of Zulus, leaving the scene of the battle as they approached. At the camp they discovered one soldier who had made a miraculous escape of being carried down the river and then making his way back to the camp. He and 2 African wagon drivers were the only survivors. We ran into a few technical issues with my Osmo. Can you tell us a bit about what happened here and why it happened?
Broken as well.
Very badly vandalised, isn't it?
Typical South Africa.
That's the Sphinx, isn't it?
Yeah. The Staffordshire Regiment, the 80th, are the ones that were involved here, mainly. If you look down over there, you see where that little sprake comes in there, just slightly to the left, or the right of that tree. That's the little Intombe, and this is the big one here in front of it.
Yeah.
In actual fact, if you wait for a couple of seconds, you can actually film those guys crossing the drift. They're going to go down there just now.
Oh yeah, I see. What were they saying? They're talking to us or?
Yeah, no, they're talking about taking photographs.
Oh, I see.
We do that. So they're gone now. You'll see them.
This was a convoy carrying British equipment?
Yeah, stores and supplies from Derby to the British fort at Luneberg.
Just see there's a real deep sort of drift there.
Yeah, no, they're probably just no more than ankle deep at this stage. So they take off their shoes and they hop across.
Right. They got here late in the afternoon, did they?
They've been here. They basically abandoned the wagon reasonably late in the afternoon. Well, yeah, because they were so drenched and so peed off and whatever. And they went into Luneberg, and the following day, that's where Tucker came out. They left a rear guard behind under Captain Moriarty, who's the main man in the story. But when Tucker came out the following morning, he saw that where those guys are climbing out of the river there is your laager site in the shape of an upside down triangle with your base of the triangle being the river as the base of the triangle. And then on this side, approximately where we are, you had Hayward and his little party of men and 2 wagons, I think it was, and there they sat, and they were absolutely bogged down, mired down, nowhere to go. And
was it a rainy night or something?
Yes, it's rainy season. It's right in the middle of the rainy season, which just makes life a hell of a lot tougher. It had taken them days to get down from Derby to here, and so Tucker actually didn't make any effort to correct any of the defensive sites. One presumes that he thought it was what the precautions they'd taken were good enough, but they would be watched from up on Tafelberg, that one over there, by the Swazi raider Mbelini of the Abakulus, and he knew that if the rain stopped in the catchment area further upstream, that the river would drop very rapidly. And so what the Kulusi waited for was, of course, the weather to sort of clear a little bit, river to drop, and then a gap to open up between the bottom of the laager and the river, which it did the night. And about sort of 10ish, 11ish at night, there was a sudden alarm on the other side. Lots of fighting and screaming and shouting. And the Swazis penetrated the laager. Hayward sat here, tried to give covering fire. Some of the guys tried to swim across the river and drowned. So very, very few were actually saved. And at the end of the day, total utter disaster. But safety is only no more than 5 kilometers away at the base of that hill there. And that's where Colour Sergeant Booth comes into it. She takes what remains.
You mean that hill above the church?
Yes. No, not that one. That one there.
Oh, I see.
That's Luneberg there. Yeah.
Ah, Luneberg.
And they retired on foot, under regular command, doing the thing as the way they should be doing in terms of a small square, and got away scot-free, which is nice. Hayward, of course, depending on which story you read, either deserted or went back to Luneberg to get reinforcements. One really doesn't know which one it was. And the end result is that he got nothing. I think he got a court-martial. Booth also got a VC for the slow but sure retirement down there.
Like a fighting retreat.
I know, a fighting retreat, yes. But remember, the British Army never retreats. They only retire or withdraw.
Sure.
Everybody else retreats, but the British Army don't do that. So 80 odd of the Staffordshire Regiment killed.
That's a lot of men.
So it's quite a disaster for them. And basically, although we've learnt the whole thing of a laager from St. Juan days, we haven't actually learnt it properly. And we still haven't learnt it 2 weeks later when the British get caught up Shaban. And again, taken by surprise, because they're up on top of a mountain doing a cattle raid and having a bit of fun, and of course the whole Zulu army arrives at the base of the hill without anybody knowing about it. And in a post-mortem at the end of the battle, the British asked the scout, did you know the Zulus were coming? And they said, oh yes, no we do. And you say, well, why the hell didn't you tell us? They say, well, we always tell you all sorts of things, but you never listen. So this time we didn't bother. But this is the one and only battle really in this northern part of this part of Zululand.
And these weren't really Zulus, they were rogues.
Renegades and stuff like that.
Oh, there's Karen. Made our way to a little German outpost called Luneberg. Very orderly, very clean, very German. And it was here there was a fort established that the men at the Intombe drift encounter made a fighting retreat back to. And here in the cemetery are some of the men. Captain Moriarty, I believe, is here. Back go. Oh, he's quite fast. Okay, he had me fooled. I don't know why these ones haven't been vandalised at all. But everything around here is German and European. The church, the roof on the church, even the cattle, as I said to Pat, are like Frisian or Jersey cows, and they're not the African. And if you look at the writing, for instance here, it's German, it's not Afrikaans. In the bottom corner is the military section. Glorious day today, about 22, 23. Sun is out, not too hot. was a little cool yesterday, but that has passed on. Once again you see the writing here in Gott, here writing in German. Giving them their own corner. Is that the surgeon?
Yeah, Cobbin.
Cobbin. William Graham, is it? Perhaps? Ingram. William Ingram Cobb.
Cobbin.
Cobbin.
Do you see the date of death? It's different to the one of Moriarty's birth.
12th of March. Here is the captain, Captain David Barry Moriarty of the 80th Regiment, killed in action with 65 of his men at the Intombe Drift, 11th of March 1879. A large grave for one man.
The gang also goes down in British military history as an idiot. Made this basic error.
This says something like Cobbin, NCOs and men at the 80th Regiment who fell at the Entombe Drift, Entombe River, erected by the 4th King's Own. This one's in very poor condition. Something cockerel. It seems to say age 90. That would be old. The writing is so deteriorated.
So there's no weeds or anything else like that. It's very clean. It just needs a little bit of TLC.
This material is not very good for headstones, is it?
No.
It says something about of pomfret or something, killed in action at, I can't see that again, but I'm going to guess it's probably in Intombe. This is a really nice place to rest.
It's amazing how many settlers have died here over the years, isn't it? Must be quite a community.
What about now? Are there many living here?
Still a fair amount, yeah.
Okay.
You know, they've had farms here for 150 years, so they're not particularly worried about land invasions and things like that because they've got title to it now.
Right.
And they can produce.